Hello and welcome to Gotham Sound TV. I am here, my name is Peter Schneider. I am here with Allison Jackson. Hi,
Hello.
Allison.
Hello.
We are here to talk about a film that she did the production sound on called Don't Think Twice. And then we'll sort of talk about what it means to be a working sound professional for film and TV in New York. So I'm very excited. First of all, I have to gush for a little bit,
Okay.
which is I'm a huge Mike Birbiglia fan. Was very excited to see the movie. Saw the movie where they did the Q&A afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of a grassroots effort to show the movie. The producers and the stars and the director all would do Q&A after. I think they did like 30 screenings.
Wow. Of
Like,
Q&A.
Of Q&A.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was intense. Mine was different than the others, I think, unless they just fooled us all. We had, they made little bunny, balloon animals in ours,
Cool.
and the cast cried
Wow.
during the Q&A. And so that's my segue into talking about the movie.
Okay.
Which, and correct me if I'm wrong if I bungle this up, but you know, for me it's about what happens to a tight group of performers where suddenly two of them in the movie are tapped and have success bestowed upon them much faster than the rest of the group. And what happens to that? And in the movie, they're an improv comedy troupe, but I think there's something universal about it. I think, you know, there's something universal about a group of friends that are working, you know, in the same career, working together, and then, you know, why do some people find success, like ridiculous success, and
Yeah.
others don't, and what sets them apart? There's a funny moment in the movie where they do find success, and there's a kind of Saturday Night Live show. They don't actually call it Saturday Night Live, which I thought, I wanted to ask in the Q&A, but once they started crying, I thought that was probably too like, mundane of a question.
Yeah.
They call it Weekend Live or something like that.
Yeah.
But where they show the band.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there was a moment in the movie where like they could have just zoomed into the band and then tell the band story of like, why are they on Saturday Night Live? And you know, like all the people they played with aren't.
Yeah.
You know, how did they find success? And so there is a kind of universal story in there, which I thought was really appealing. And also, Birbiglia is hilarious. So go and see it. It's in theaters now. Working on it, was that the sort of sense of what the movie was about? Like, did you feel connected to the themes and the plot of the movie?
I did feel connected, but honestly, in working on it, there was so much laughter going on that you didn't realize that there was that much drama involved as well. So when I saw it in theaters, I believe I cried when I saw it in theaters, just because there's so much more depth to it that when I was working on the movie, I did not realize it was there.
That's a good sign, actually. Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to hear that. All right, so let's start with some of the sort of technical questions. First of all, I think let's sort of start with, you are a working sound person, and when did you get started in sound?
So I went to film school and I graduated in 2007 and moved back to New York. So that's when I first kind of started. I was doing both sound and picture editing because I had studied that as well at school. And I just got more sound jobs that paid way better. So I just kind of shifted to that track. So I guess I started mixing really in 2007.
Nice. Yeah, that was how I got started too, actually, in film school. Like, I realized sound people get paid when other people in film school are doing it for real, or there's some other motivation that people can use. Sound people got paid, and that was good. And I don't know, do you find like it's a kind of really interesting vantage point to be in production, to be doing sound? Is that like a thing for you?
For me, yes. Just because I very much like being in the background and observing everything that's going on around me. And I feel like sound, especially early on when I was doing Columbia thesis films and NYU thesis films, no one really knew what the sound person did or what they needed. So I would just kind of do my thing and and that was it, and be left alone. And then I could see how everything else worked and how we worked together and talking with other departments. And
Yeah.
I love that. I love it.
And so you went from working on Columbia thesis films, and was there a progression from there? Like, what was the sort of next step of stuff for you?
It became low budget indie shorts, and then that graduated to features. And it was all, honestly, working on those thesis films really helped me meet tons of people who then graduated to the next step and remembered me and brought me on board. And that, I feel like to this day, that's carrying my career a little bit. You know, these people I met early on who liked working with me and still recommend me for things. And
So somebody starting out,
yeah.
right? How do you, looking back, is there a sense that you had, like, which thesis films would be worth it and which weren't, or you just did them all?
I did them all. I had no idea.
No idea.
Like, sometimes I'd get on set and be like, this film is ridiculous. It's never going anywhere.
But it's too late. You're committed to the project.
Yeah, it's too late. And I, at that point, you know, I was trying to make rent. I'd take anything I could. And what was great about those films is that the schools provide the gear. So I didn't have gear for the first year that I started out. So I would just be like, all right, we'll get the school's gear and I'll mix for you. I still got paid, which was incredible. I don't know how that works out.
No, it's...
I don't know how. But yeah, I took anything and everything that came my way.
I think it's because it's technical and, you know, somewhat challenging that, and there's no sort of obvious gratification. Like, there's certainly no kind of the allure of being next to the camera.
Right.
You know, it's just not there for sound people. So, anyways, I think it's right that we get paid, of course, but it is unique on a student film set.
Yeah.
When you're the only one. Yes. So, I think the other thing about working with other people's gear is you really get a sense of what works and what doesn't work. And that's something that I really do stress when people come in here and they're like, I want to buy a package, and then I'll start mixing. I'm like, you should rent first, or you should use other people's gear first.
Yeah.
The big stuff is easy to rent. If you're going to buy it, maybe buy small.
Yeah.
And then you get to see sort of what works and what doesn't work. And so you would recommend people starting out that they should do student films?
Yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, you meet tons of people, and it's fun, really, because they're all so passionate, because it's especially the thesis projects, that's what they're graduating on, so they really want it to be fantastic.
So that might be something a person starting out could look for, like if it's their thesis project as opposed to like just an exercise or something like that.
Yeah, I've done exercises as well through the thesis film. One of the thesis films I'd done at NYU, I made a really good friend out of that, and he was going back to school, and he was doing his second term project, and I didn't get paid for that. I was just doing a favor. It was 2 days. I helped him out, but the crew on that went on to work on Beasts of the Southern Wild, and they called me for that and said, do you want to do the sound? And I said, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and that was a freebie 2-day thing. So you never know what can lead to the next big thing. Or
yeah.
Yeah.
And that got huge amounts of publicity.
Huge. It went to the Oscars. It was amazing.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. All right. So eventually you got into the union.
I did, yeah.
And what was that like? What was that first experience?
My first union job?
Yeah.
My first union job, actually, it came early on. It came in 2008, I think, because I had written I'd written several letters to sound mixers here in New York saying, hey, I just graduated, I'm really into sound, I love your work, I'd love to meet with you, or just to pick your brain, essentially. Yeah. And one of them called me back and said, I like your chutzpah, I believe was the word he used, and said, you want to come intern for me?
You've narrowed it down to a slightly certain number of mixers, but all right. There's only a few mixers that know chutzpah, but all right.
Yeah, all right. So he said, you want to come intern with me on this job? It's Tier 2 out on Long Island. And my parents were living on Long Island. So I think that was part of the benefit. So I stayed there and then would drive in to set every day. And that film was amazing. I learned more on that set than I ever did in school. Yeah. So that really helped me out a lot.
That interning and even thirding for more experienced mixers, I think is huge. And I felt the same way. Like the first time I thirded for somebody,
Yeah.
I learned more than I had like up to the point of like all the low budget stuff that I had done.
Yeah, for sure. And then when I officially got in, that was in 2012, I mean, amazingly, I'd been day playing through the permit list, through the hall, meeting lots of different mixers, and one of them had passed my name on. Can I say who?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
One of them passed my name on to Matthew Price.
Uh-huh.
And he said, "You want to be my utility on this TV show I'm doing?" I'd worked with him twice, I think. And I'm like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. 9 months of work, that's fantastic. So I was his utility on the following. And he also said, "Do you want to mix the tandems?" I'm like, okay, terrified of mixing my first union thing. So the first tandem comes up. I have my, rinky-dink cart compared to his and the other mixing carts I've seen. And I was incredibly nervous until I hit record on the first take. And then I'm like, oh, this is exactly the same.
Yeah, right.
It's exactly the same as anything I've done before.
It's funny because I think I feel like we have parallel existences. Matt Price did the same thing for me. I thirded for him on Sopranos, and then mixed the tandems, and that was huge. And had the same like total nervousness until that first take.
Yeah.
And in fact, still do actually. Like to this day, I'm a basket case until take one is in in a file. Yeah, no, that's Matt Price has played a seminal role in my career. It's interesting. And so you still you thirded and you mixed for on the tandems, but still kept your active in independent films. Still mixed independent films.
Yeah. So that show, I did the following for 3 years as utility tandem mixer.
And sorry to interrupt, but the great thing about episodic too, and so this is advice for people starting out. If you get a chance to work on an episodic as a sound person, you'll see every possible sound scenario there is.
That's true. Yeah.
So it really does help you as a mixer. So sorry.
Yeah. No, it's totally fine. So that show was 7 months long. So during the hiatus time, which was usually the summer, I'd try to mix a tier 1 or a tier 2, and yeah, I was able to do that. Those are like 23, 24 days, so I could squeeze it in and get my mixing career rolling more than the utility work. So yeah, it was nice.
And so I'm going to skip ahead probably over a bunch of stuff. Walk me through, like, how did Don't Think Twice contact you? Like, how did that job come to you?
I had worked with the assistant UPM, who we were talking about before, Carrie. I'd worked with her on a non-union indie feature. It was actually my last non-union feature I did. She was the UPM on that. And then I had done a tier 1 union with her the summer before. And she said, "Hey, I've got this film. I want to pass your name on to the director. Is that okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
Amazing.
Yeah. So she called me in. I met with the director and the UPM. I think the first AD was in on that interview. And I like them, they like me.
And so had you read the script at that point?
I had read the script, yeah.
And what was the interview like?
Mainly just seeing if we kind of clicked. And they asked me if anything in particular had struck out as a challenging sound problem. I said the car stuff, driving, whether it's the main question I had is this going to be a process trailer, or is it going to be some kind of free drive situation where I'll have to be in the trunk?
In the movie, I don't want to give too much away, but they all have to take a road trip to Philadelphia, I think it is. And there's all 4 of them are
6.
6 of them in the car.
Yeah.
It's funny, you remember.
Because I remember the seating and how we mic'd it. So.
Which we should talk about. We don't have a clip for it, but we should talk. Anyway, so you mentioned the car stuff, and what did they say?
They just kind of eased my fears that it would be a process trailer and it'll be fine, and I'm like, okay, then I can mic it this way. One of Mike's biggest concern, Mike was the director, his previous film, Sleepwalk with Me, involved stand-up in front of a live audience. And in the previous film, the mixer had asked for the audience to be quiet while he's doing the stand-up. Which
for a stand-up comedian, I bet is deadly.
It's deadly. And he said he could not recreate the sound of that audience applause and laughter and all that. Right. So one of the things he said in the interview was, we want to do this in front of a live audience, and we want that audience to react. How do you approach that situation? So I told him my ideas, and they all smiled and nodded at each other. I think that's what sealed the deal for me.
So wait a minute. This is a perfect segue for clip number one. So let's watch clip number one,
Okay.
which is that initial scene, and then we'll talk about what your strategy was.
Yeah.
All right.
Is it going to be there?
And we are the Communes. So everything you see tonight is going to be improvised. And this show is really all about you guys. So we want to know, has anybody out here had a particularly hard day?
And something actually hard, like not like your roommate ate your yogurt.
It was still shitty when you ate my yogurt once.
Go ahead.
I'm looking for an apartment, and it sucks.
Why specifically does it suck?
The only one I can afford has the bathroom in the kitchen.
Hi, great.
Hi.
Okay, so as you can see, we have there's 2 bedrooms.
Lovely.
Here is the kitchen.
Nice.
There's a beautiful bathroom.
Is that a toilet?
Yes, that is. The toilet is in the kitchen. Yes.
And
Yes.
who are they?
They are. They are orphans. They are orphans.
Did you say orphans?
Yes, the apartment comes with orphans.
Oh.
Yes.
Does the landlord mind if I paint?
Well, you can't paint the orphans, no. But you can paint the walls.
This is the
yes.
place I was telling you about, David. It has a lot of character.
Hello, Melinda. Good to
This
see you.
is my husband.
Stanley, a
I
pleasure to meet
love
you.
it.
Oh, it's great. Hey, well, guys, this is it. It's gonna sell today. You gotta go for it. It's gonna sell today.
I'll take it.
Oh, no, I'm going to take
No,
it.
we'll pay 30% of your asking.
Oh, well, I'll pay 50% of your asking.
We'll pay 100% of your
Well,
asking.
I'll pay $2 million for this apartment.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
What
yeah.
makes you want this apartment so badly?
It's the orphans. I want to raise them.
How much of that was scripted? Was it all scripted, including
I'm not
the
supposed to
stuff?
say. Like I think Mike doesn't want people to know.
Oh. All right.
So a good chunk is improv and a good chunk is scripted.
Okay.
I think
Fa-
that's
no,
all,
that's
I
fair
think
enough.
that's all I can say. Yeah.
And so, what did in the interview when Mike expressed that as a concern? What did you say your strategy would be?
I said, that's great. We can totally do that. Of course, you always agree to what the director says. And I wanted to get a stereo mic for the center of the audience. And then just kind of mic as much of the audience as possible in terms of the sections. I hadn't seen the theater at that point, so I didn't know where the people would be seated and how exactly we would mic it. But I didn't think it would be a problem. And then each character would get a lav just to isolate their voices from the laughter and applause and all that.
Got it. So all the actors on stage are mic'd.
Yeah, all actors on stage are mic'd.
And then so let's walk me through, like, you get to location. So did you go on the scout? Had you seen the
did,
thing?
yeah.
Okay, so you
Which
had a
was great.
sense of like where to.
Yeah.
So I guess we can stress to UPMs and anybody in charge of budgeting, bring your location sound person on the tech scouts.
For sure.
That is a way that sometimes people save money, but it's, I think, a foolish way. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So you had a sense of where you'd be and what to do, and so you set up the stereo pair for the audience. That still happened.
Yes, still happened.
And then how did you deal with the audience?
In
terms of like the person asking setting it up for us, like the person that says, I was trying to find an apartment.
Okay, so then I said, yeah, that was scripted. Like those people.
And so you
giving
knew
those
where they
cues.
would be.
Yeah, so I knew where he was seated, and I put a shotgun mic planted in front of him because I wanted the space of a room as opposed to the lav.
Sure.
So he had any person who gave a cue from the audience had a plant mic in front of them.
And so we should unpack that a little bit in terms of like you were respecting the camera perspective.
Yes.
Because the camera's far back, and it sounds like the way they sound in the audience is totally appropriate for where the camera is.
Yeah.
And I think that's, for me personally, that's such a pleasing approach to audio. You know, the tendency is to wire everybody, you know, and especially I think if you're used to doing sound on reality television, it is a way to get audio, and you know, a lot of times you have to fight for stuff or fight for a position for a plant or a boom.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated hearing all the air there. It matched the picture perfectly.
Yeah.
So plant mics for the audience. Just in the front, like in the seat in front of them or something.
Exactly,
like that.
yeah, in the seat in front of them. I think we had like what I call a magic arm. It's the spring clamp with the bendy thing.
Sure.
Just clip that right in front, a little shock mount, and then stretch it to wherever is good for him or her, whoever was in the audience, yeah.
And lavs for everybody on stage.
Yep, so there were six lavs, and then my boom op was there, because it was all Steadicam for the improv. So he was there right behind the boom op getting, whoever was on camera, he was getting.
Sure.
Yeah, and then I would play the off-screen with the lavs.
So it sounds like 9, you're two plants, the boom, 6
7,
wires.
2 plants. I had the stereo pair and one mic over audience left and one mic over audience right. What I had done, so I use a 788 to mix. I also have a 633. So I daisy chained my 633 to the 788. Anything regarding the audience was on the 633. Mono mixed into the 788 track just for the dailies.
For editor, yeah.
And then 2 CF cards at the end of the day. Audience stuff, everything on stage.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And why is it important to mic the audience so much?
Just so you get the sense of the space, I think, and if you're, what Mike wanted, live laughter, live applause, any kind of comments that might come out, it just creates this 3D environment for the film. And there's no other way to do improv if you're not going to have your audience actually laughing and actually applauding. They'd actually, so a bunch of those guys are actually real improv people, like that's their profession, they're improv guys, characters, I don't know, actors. And they just sent out emails and posted on Facebook to their actual fans, said, hey, we've got 3 days of this, free improv show, be in a movie, come on in.
No, I got the fan club email.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't make it, but yeah.
Yeah, nice.
That it sounds great. And the mixing, because it was improv, or the stuff on stage was improv. Did you mix by hand? Did you sort of feel it, or did you rely on any of the? We had the 788 and the 633, so really that was it. There was no mix assist or any kind of auto mixing or anything like that.
I mean, what I did, I left the audience, so the mono mix from the 633, I left that up, the audience mix essentially up on the 788. And then it got to a point where I could just recognize the actor's voice, and as soon as I heard them speaking a little bit, I just bring up their mic. I missed some cues. Like during the real improv stuff, I definitely missed some cues, but by, I don't know, after lunch, I just started feeling their rhythm and watching them. I did have video, so I was just watching what the camera was seeing, and I started to learn how they played off each other and who would speak, and so just kind of felt it out, I guess.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
All right, so let's, I guess let's roll with the second clip. The second clip I'll set up is a little bit farther in, and the characters find out that they are closing down the theater. And so it's a bittersweet moment in a bar. So clip number 2, please.
The theater's closing. We've got to be out of there in 4 weeks. They're selling. Another Trump building, I think.
New York City is over.
New York City, you fired.
Improv for America, you fired.
All of America, you're fired.
What the hell was that?
That was Trump.
No, JFK.
Your impersonation is so bad, you're fired.
So you know, those kind of scenes on paper look straightforward. Was there anything? Were there any challenges going into it that you remember?
So any scene we did, although scripted, ended in improv.
Right. It's
like 5 minutes of improv at the end of every take. Everything at the bar was 2-camera day. So on that day, for most of the show, we were a 2-man sound crew. But on any 2-camera days, I had requested and was given an additional boom operator. So having a second camera...
You sound like you have great producers.
They were amazing. Absolutely fantastic. And the trick was telling them early on. Like I read the script and I said, listen, are there any 2-camera days or is this single camera? I think I asked that in the interview or the first meeting after I'd gotten the job.
Sure.
And I said, you know, when there's an additional camera, it would help us if we could get, if I could get another boom operator. And they said, all right, we'll just budget it in and we'll make it work. So they really worked with us. It was really nice.
So preparation.
Yeah.
Key.
Yeah.
If you had sprung stuff on them last minute, I'm sure they would have been less than thrilled.
Definitely.
Less than accommodating.
Yeah.
You know, part of what I want to gear this towards is people who are starting out, or who maybe not even starting out as sound people, but you know, it's just starting out in the business, sort of like how you get to where you are.
Yeah.
All right, so 2 cameras, 2 boom operators,
Yep.
and zone coverage?
Yes, definitely. That particular table had a light dead center, so they just split the half of the table. And I don't think we wired Gillian, who gets up later and stands on the table. We wired her for that scene, but none of the other folks were wired. It was just double boom.
Did you, I don't want you to give away anything you're not supposed to, but like some stuff you knew was going to happen, like you knew maybe she would get up on the table.
We did know that, yeah.
And were the actors good about sort of like giving you guys heads up about stuff? Were they aware of this, of like the process of recording them, or?
I'd like to think they were aware. They didn't really give us a heads up. There were a couple moments where one of the actors would scream very loudly. It didn't make it into the film, but we were not prepared for that at all. So we'd asked to go again for that reason. But yeah, they just kind of did their own thing. I think that's the nature of the show and the amount of improv involved, that they just kind of rolled with it. And I didn't want to hinder them in any way either.
Right.
So I was like, if I need another one, I'm going to ask for it, but you guys just do whatever you want.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, and so let's watch the 3rd clip. I'll set it up. So two of the people in the troupe found out that they're getting auditions for what is supposed to be Saturday Night Live or Weekend Live, and they are practicing their monologues that they're going to do for their audition. So again, one of those things that seems really simple on paper, but I'd love to get into any complications.
Yeah.
So, clip number 3, please.
Hello, my name is Liam Neeson. If it's money that you're looking for, I've got none. I've used all of it. The last 6 times my daughter was taken. I mean, didn't you find it very easy to kidnap her?
No, you and I should sit. Let's go over there. God, are we glued here? We're glued here. Can we get a table that doesn't move? Nobody answers. It's business. What? What? No, I wouldn't move the table. I want to put my feet on it. Can't we get a stationary table? Can't we get a stationary? Nobody listens in this. Nobody.
If one hair on her head is harmed, what, she's dead? Okay, well, to be quite honest, there's a bit of relief there.
So I was thinking about doing Jenna Rollins from A Woman Under the Influence as an umpire.
Okay, well, that was obscure in 1974, but okay.
Yeah. Nick, you're out.
What do you mean I'm out? How can I be out?
You missed the base. You're out.
I missed the base. I didn't even swing.
Rain delay.
I'm telling you, I didn't swing at the ball.
But you have to do the Porches things too.
Porches. We have aluminum porches. Enclosed.
So sweet.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, you read it. I imagine the script said something like, "He's in the shower,
Yes.
saying stuff,"
Yeah.
or she's watching a clip on an iPad, repeating what she says.
Yeah.
But to a sound person, those have certain danger signs.
Oh man, when I read shower, I'm like, oh my God. Because I knew it wasn't going to be on a stage. We're going to be on location in an actual bathroom, in a real, fully tiled shower.
Right.
Always a challenge. And I was telling you earlier, I wish I had emailed the post guys to see if they'd ADR'd it or not. But we did the best we could with that. We, I think we sound blanketed and carpeted the entire floor, sound blankets on the walls of the bathroom. In the shower stall, we'd put hog's hair over the drain to kind of help as much as we could. And then, yeah, my boom op just stuck the pole in there and hoped for the best. Yeah.
And the iPad, it sounds, it doesn't seem like it's ADR'd, it sounds real.
Yeah, I hope
Sounds
so.
like production dialogue. Yeah.
The iPad. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. So the iPad, again, like on the page, like they're looking at an iPad. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
But
I don't think the clip was decided upon until that day or the day before. And it had to be a few days before that because I had to get permission for Katharine Hepburn. But Mike wanted the actual audio from the clip to be playing while she's doing the voice and mimicking her.
Right.
So we kind of just found a level that worked, the level of sound for the iPad and a level that Gillian had to project at, and just kind of made it work.
Sure.
But that's always tricky, finding that balance.
Because there's something that's really realistic. Like another way to do it would be like a whole earwig rig, and like then she really can't control the iPad anymore.
Yeah.
And you're sort of like building layers in between the actor and their prop and what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it paid off. I mean, it sounds
I think so too.
Totally natural. And
yeah, we did try it. We did try it muted, and it just did not work. And then we tried it at a super low volume, and I'm like, that doesn't work either. Just do it regular.
Right.
Yeah, and I think.
Yeah. Let's talk about because we're out of clips, which is fine. But let's talk about the role of the sound person in a narrative feature like this. Like, do you feel at all like you have a duty or responsibility to kind of maintain a sacred space for the actors and maintain like storytelling for the director? Like, do you see yourself as more than just a technician?
I definitely do. In terms of working with actors, I try to make them the least uncomfortable as possible. If they don't want to wear a wire, they're not getting a wire. As simple as that. If they come to me, I've had actors come to me at the beginning of a show saying, listen, I don't like how my voice sounds on a wire. Can you try not to wire me? I'm like, yeah, I will do my best not to have to wire you.
Yeah.
And I don't want what my job is to hinder their craft, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. And then in terms of, sorry, what was the second part of that?
Well, I mean, the sort of maintaining the director's vision for the story. Like, yeah, I mean, in other words, I think there's a thought like, oh, because doing sound is so technical, that sound mixing is a technician's job.
Yeah.
But I think that the reality that I've seen is that the successful sound mixers are the ones that really can talk to the directors about story, can talk to actors, or at least understand what they need for their craft.
Yeah.
Do you find that to be true?
Definitely, yeah, with the directors as well. Talking to a director is key. I mean, most people think, oh, the DP is the one who really needs to understand the story with the image and the framing and the lighting. Sound is just as important. You need to know what the director's trying to say, and then you can create that sound environment.
I mean, I think a good example that you gave is like your conversations with Mike about the stand-up were about the audience, and the conversations when it's two sound people talking are about like the 788 being chained to the 63. Right. You wouldn't talk to Mike about the 788 being chained to the 63. It wouldn't work well. Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's something to it. And then I wanted to talk to you about, can you say, I mean, we could sort of look it up. I'm sure it's public, but like roughly the budget of Don't Think Twice?
Oh, I don't know. Tier 1, so whatever is that under $5 million?
Yeah, let's just say yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So low budget. What does it mean to be a sound mixer on low budget? And I wonder if you could talk about what it means to be working on The Following and how that compares to working on a film whose budget is Don't Think Twice.
I think the biggest difference from a sound perspective is the locations and the access we have to them and our ability to control the environment. So I find that on the lower budget films, you're kind of, if you're shooting in a bar, you've got to hard out at 6 p.m. when the bar opens for actual business, and we can't turn off the beer fridges because they don't want to ruin the beer. And so I find that there's a lot more of that, where it's creative thinking as to, okay, this is our environment. It sounds like an actual bar, which we don't really want. How do we make the best of that situation, whether that's carpets everywhere, or more sound blankets over the fridges and the vents, turning off what we can, turning it off for only, cuts and rolls, and trying to work with the location as best as possible, where if you have a bigger budget, you just rent out the bar for the day and you're giving them enough money where they don't have to open for that evening, and you can turn off all the fridges and all that. So for me, I think that's the biggest.
And in terms of your footprint, like, is your footprint or when you do tandem or when Matt Price is mixing the following, like footprint in terms of like your cart and your follow cart, is that different than your footprint on a low budget film?
Yeah, I feel like the bigger budget, there's just more stuff. Like honestly, not when I do it, because on the low budget stuff, I'm bringing everything I have to possibly combat any situation I might come across.
Yeah.
But I feel like on the majors films or a big TV show, the sound cart's just bigger, like it's just bigger and just heavier, and then the follow cart is huge and heavy. And
so, if you had to give advice to somebody starting out as to like how they should approach a sound cart, what would you tell them?
Smaller is better.
Yeah.
Smaller and lighter. There's a lot of going upstairs.
Right.
A lot of apartments that don't have an elevator.
I mean, an upstairs apartment on an episodic would likely be in a studio.
Yeah,
it could be on location, but they could easily build it.
Exactly.
But yeah, low budget, it would be an upstairs apartment.
Yeah, you're all location. We get one stage day for the tax credit.
Right.
Yeah, one stage day. That's often not really a true sound stage.
Right.
And the rest is location. So just be mobile, be able to fit in tight places and turn corners. And a lot of times I go to the bag rig. If I'm doing car free drive stuff, I'll just grab my 633. It's ready to go with like 3 wires, 411 receivers. Just grab it and go.
Nice. So go and see Don't Think Twice. And for those people that are going to go see Don't Think Twice, is there a scene that you're particularly proud of that they should watch out for?
I mean, all the improv stuff. Because a good chunk that's in the movie is improv, and I love it. It's funny and it's endearing. And
Nice. I'm just going to pause for a second to see if we have any questions, and we do not, which is fine. Is there anything before we leave that you want to add? Anything, people starting out, people see the movie?
No, not that I can think of.
Fair enough. Will you stay with me while I read some business?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you, Allison. Next time, Tuesday, August 16th, we are still figuring it out. It says it right there. I have some ideas. I think we should do people's audio problems, but I'm not committing us to that. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, Video Archives, Vimeo, and YouTube, and please send your ideas, particularly about next Tuesday, to info@gothamsound.com. Thank you very much, everyone.